kick off.
We are Red Run Productions. We have made a trailer for our film called REM, or REM, and this is our group evaluation of our A2 project.
Amy, starting with the preliminary task.
Okay, we started about year 12, our first year AS, we started a preliminary task. It was sort of, no, it wasn't.
13.
Was it? It was year 13, yeah. Our start of our A2 course, sorry, it was sort of us practicing our way into the course, warming our way into it. We chose to recreate the film Paranormal Activity, which was a huge film. It was the first sort of successful handheld film made since the Blair Witch Project. We wanted to do it because it was something different. It wasn't really done in many films before. It was something we wanted to try out. It was something we could sort of do as well without sort of loads of limitations. We didn't really do it in a hugely successful way because we ended up making more of a short film than a trailer. So we made it really, really long and it was more of a short clip. So yeah, that's it.
We don't have the trailer for that. Plus it's also because it's a short film, it's not actually that relevant to how we developed. But we do go on to talk about how we did actually intend to, what we learned from what we did in our preliminary task to what we did with our final media task. You want to carry on, Amy?
Yeah. We were fully aware of how much planning we had to put into it, especially when it came to editing. We did huge loads of folder work, and then when it got round to editing it, we'd realised we had no time at all. So it enabled us to sort of foresee what could be problems for the next task to come, which was the real thing.
Also, I'd just like to say, obviously being editor for the actual preliminary task and for the final task, myself, I was able to actually understand that we didn't actually, the editing process on Paranormal Activity, our remake, was actually it was dumbed down. It wasn't really extensive. Literally, it was adding a few transitions, adding a few titles onto it and keeping it and speeding up the film.
It was quite to a form as well. It was easy because we were following a film. We was following clips that were already made, so we knew what to do, how to edit it, exactly what we wanted to achieve. Whereas with this one, we had to do it all blind, really. We had to create our own edits. Yeah, exactly.
Our course assignment brief after our preliminary.
Next, when it came on to doing the main project, we were briefed on what we had to create, and it was to produce a theatrical horror trailer. Theatrical is important because most trailers last about 30 seconds, but a theatrical one, they're 2 to 4 minutes, I think we put down there. We were told to produce it using codes and conventions, so by understanding it, by using them and breaking them and bending them, we'd show an understanding. We were told to do that as part of the brief. To use and understand pre-existing texts, so the use of iconography, that's taking previous texts, looking at it, maybe using elements, copying elements, changing a few elements, pastiching, and then uploading it for advertising the network. That wasn't so much important to the final thing, but it's quite important you get feedback from it, and using the internet and other networking really does get you some good feedback.
We were also given guidelines such as, for example, like Matthew already stated, we were looking to fit it in within 2 to 3 minutes, and our trailer actually lasted, was it 2.5 minutes? Yeah. So 2.5 minutes, we met that guideline quite nicely. We had to make reference to pre-existing texts, so such as our case studies, or iconography and use of that. To come up with a demographic, a central target audience, and typically for our type of genre, you're aiming at people that are teenagers going on to about 25 to 30 years old. each of us have our own opinion on how our narrative arc went, but we followed the typical narrative arc without a resolution. So it was a typical trailer ending with a complication.
Okay, these are just some notes to bounce off, so if any of you want to. We, at first, this is about how we came with the idea, we got to the idea. At first, a couple of people in the group would want to do psychological, but it turned out the rest of the group thought we discovered that and we went through that paranormal activity, so we weren't too sure about wanting to do it. Then next we talked about slasher flicks, because slasher flicks are notoriously easy, I guess, to do.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of conventions with it, there's so many more rules, there's so many more things, and with the rules you've got more chance to break them, so you're close to convention with slasher films. The unique killing point part is about, we wanted to give our killer, every good killer has a unique killing point. So something, a reason why they kill. So I mean, you've got Michael Myers who just kills everyone on this area because of his sister. You've got Freddy Krueger who attacks people on a street where he was killed. So we wanted to give our killer a killing point, and at first we did want to do a bit of a gritty film as well. It's an idea behind a gritty film, so something really gritty and horrible to watch, hard to watch, so a bit like I Spit on Your Grave, which is all rape and horrible, and Last House on the Left, which has all kinds of scenes like that. We thought about those scenes as well. Eventually we had to come to a compromise, obviously because as a group, and we thought slasher flick clash with psychological, and we do go on to talk a bit more about that. Once we started doing that, we started to research about what we wanted, then we thought a film with a twist. So, and Amy then introduced to us the REM sort of thing, and that's basically to do with Inception. So it's rapid eye movement, it's about the unconscious world, doing stuff while you're asleep and not being aware of it.
Well,
So
you are aware of it, it's just not aware in the actual real world, it's all imaginary.
Yeah. So that sort of, the dream state, that element got brought into that, gave us a lot more to play with. Then we worked out a whole film synopsis, which is coming up. Then it was important what we actually showed, because by this point, the whole group never ever thought of this as making a film. We never ever thought of it as, we're making a film. It was always a trailer. So we never thought, right, at this point this is going to happen. So we forgot the plot synopsis and we started to think about what we're showing. From that we had the rough shot by shot, which was initially produced in about a month, in about the first month. And yeah, like I say, trailer, not a film.
Well, that was main. The idea for the not being. We had to keep that like in our minds like all the time, as because when we did our preliminary task, we did in the end make a short film other than a actual trailer. So that was something we wanted. Yeah. So we wanted to actually keep on track what we actually wanted to what we wanted to do in the end.
Sorry, I think this is me again.
Yeah.
This is just a bit of bringing it back to existing text. So, slasher film god Wes Craven, he started it. I mean, he did Nightmare on Elm Street and then the whole Scream franchise. They're two massive, really important franchises to the slasher genre, but also horror. And he sort of started off with the shocking horror. So he did Last House on the Left. That was his first film, and then The Hills Have Eyes. So we wanted to look at his sort of work, because also what he does is he's completely aware of the world he's in and the world he's created. So in Scream, they're constantly telling you, in horror films, this happens, they don't die, they die. He did it in Nightmare on Elm Street where he parodied the killer. He made it fairly funny. So he revolutionised it and created it at the same time, I reckon.
I think he famously said he made Scream to kill horror or to change it or something like that.
Yeah.
Along those lines. So.
And it effectively did.
Yeah.
Then I've put All the Boys Love Mandy Lane, because that is a film. I don't want to ruin the ending for you, but it is almost, we've only realised this since we've finished the trailer and it's materialised, that we've created something that is exactly like All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. Well, not exactly, it's basically, throughout the film you think, All the Boys Love Mandy Lane, she's going to be killed, she's being hunted, they're going after her. But at the end, don't want to ruin it for you, spoiler alert, it turns out she and a friend have planned these killings. She is the killer. So it's our film, but without the psychological element to it. Inception, Nightmare on Elm Street, like we say, it's the dream element. Nightmare on Elm Street is the dream element in a slasher film. So there were pre-existing texts that we could look at, but obviously we weren't recreating them, but we could use them as a reference. And then the pastiche, so Eli Roth, in Cabin Fever, he uses a lot of Wes Craven stuff. So, Nightmare on Elm Street and sorry, not Elm Street, Last House on the Left, and it's Toby Hooper, but it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He uses both, and he uses their sort of shot type, their distance shot, the backwoods America. It was basically, we use that idea, so we take iconic shots and recreate them in our own way. And we like to think about the pastiche thing, so yeah.
Yeah, like we've already said, we intended to actually make a psychological slasher.
Joe?
Basically, we felt that by including two subgenres, slasher and psychological, we were breaking conventions, as each subgenre basically comes with its own convention. So basically, by mixing them and almost mixing target audiences and shocking them, we could effectively break the conventions already set in each sub-convention. Typically, slasher flicks are largely teen-based. They feature teenage characters and early 20s as well, obviously. Yeah, again, that's basically because people obviously feature in that film, people of that age even, and there is in some of them an element of fun, slapstick, humour, whatever you want to refer to it as. And whereas psychological films normally have an older target demographic, and that's usually because it's not as fun, they're usually more serious.
Complex.
Yeah.
Intelligent.
Yeah, basically. Something that, you need to think about, that more mature audiences are obviously going to be able to comprehend. And basically by mixing these target audiences and thereby mixing the subgenres within, it can work out depending on how you do it. Obviously we have quite a heavy reliance on slasher based on the trailer, with only subtle hints towards psychological, so we could understand how that may turn off the more mature audiences who may not realise it's a psychological film, and vice versa.
And by doing that, we had to combine two audiences, which means you've got to be sensitive towards both their needs. So slasher fans would obviously want elaborate killings, they want knife wounds, they want violence basically, and a psychological audience would maybe want less of it,